I'll turn
Okay,
around and say hi
Christopher
again.
Chapman.
Come on, yeah.
Okay, we have, and Cooper, come over just a little bit. Thank you. And the cameraman is also present. Camera person. All right, thank you.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Many of you may know who this is. Many of you do. This is Heath Ledger, and he's famous for being in several movies, but he also died of complicated drug interactions. He was taking 6 medications that they were all doctor prescribed, but the combination was lethal. The BBC has quoted his father as saying after Heath's death, "While no medications were taken in excess, we learned today that the combination of doctor-prescribed drugs proved lethal for our boy. Heath's accidental death serves as a caution to the hidden dangers of combining prescription medication even at low dosage." This also highlights the importance of understanding the medications you're taking and to follow the warnings and the cautionary notes on medication labels and their information pamphlets on what should you avoid and the dangers in taking certain medications. There are several warnings and cautionary notes that are on medication labels that describe certain things. Some are easy, such as take on an empty stomach, or only take at nighttime every 24 hours, things like that. Very easy to understand. Some are either not understood or just generally not complied with because people don't understand the severity of why these need to be complied with. Including that is do not take with grapefruit. This is the grapefruit actually blocks an enzyme in the stomach, in the intestine actually, that prevents medications from going from your intestines into your body. Because this enzyme is blocked, the medications, instead of not being absorbed, it becomes absorbed much faster and in greater qualities in your intestines. This leads to easier overdosage. So even if you think you're taking a low dose, because you're also taking grapefruit, you end up overdosing yourself. The effects can last up to 24 hours, and so if you're taking certain medications, you really should not be drinking grapefruit juice. Let's see, WebMD has some great information about grapefruit juice, and here's a short list that they have of common medication types that can cause this. Some statins, antihistamines, calcium channel blockers, psychiatric drugs, immunosuppressants, pain medications, HIV medications, and medications for irregular heartbeat. Global RPH, which is a site we use for reference at the hospital, also lists several side effects that can be caused by taking grapefruit and other medication, which includes sedation, loss of motor control, and a few other things, such as tissue damage can be caused by taking medications and grapefruit. So that is something to be very cautious about. Another cautionary note is to avoid sun. There are several medications that affect the minerals and vitamins that are in your skin, that they're there to protect you from UV light, and when they aren't present or disrupted by medications, we can't. Skin gets more easily damaged by UV, and cancer is greatly increased in the risk. The biggest one for interactions with medication is alcohol, which is in itself a drug, just not one that is prescribed. Now, according to WebMD again, there are several major adverse reactions when taking alcohol and meds. These include liver damage, drowsiness, headaches, heart problems, internal bleeding, impaired breathing. These, and unlike the previous two cautionary notes, alcohol affects a wide spectrum of drugs and sometimes inhibits the absorption and sometimes enhances the absorption of these drugs. So you need to be very cautious. The National Institute of Health says alcohol combined with herbal medications can also cause problems. Big herbal combinations as chamomile, echinacea, and St. John's wort can have major effects when taken with alcohol. And alcohol is very common. It should be advised not to take alcohol, but sadly, a large population of people in the United States have alcohol. I handed out a pamphlet on alcohol and common interactions with them. It's for everyone. So take care to take note of what your medications say, how they interact, and when in doubt, ask a pharmacist. Thank you. Was that in time?
Yeah.
Okay. Q&A.
Well, I'm just amazed that acetaminophen is on the list of a drug that has adverse effects with alcohol. How come acetaminophen? I mean, Tylenol is such a benign drug.
Tylenol is used so often because it has so few side effects. It has one major side effect, and that is liver damage when used in excess. Alcohol, because it actually enhances the effect of the toxicity of Tylenol, and because alcohol affects the liver, this compounds the two problems, and so even a little bit of alcohol with Tylenol will damage your liver more than just alcohol alone or the Tylenol alone. Anything else?
So I see on commercials a lot where they list all the side effects may include this and that and go on. So will they list all of those side effects on your medicine, or do you have to specifically ask the doctor, or what?
They don't always. They usually give the highlights on the bottles, such as this, but as the pills that you get at the pharmacist. But they actually, each box, when you commercially available, or the pharmacy will get, is a little package insert that has a lot of information about the drug, how it works, interactions with other drugs, precautionary notes, and they will have all of the ones that, or all the ones that we know of, and they will also have more in depth on, why do not take this or why not do that, and they will go into like the kinetics of how it works and just general information, but they don't always supply you with that. And so if you don't have one, or if you would like one, you can go to a pharmacy and just ask for the package insert for a drug you're taking.
So what drugs or herbs tend to interact with each other to cause lethal effects?
Well, it's not always lethal, but there are a lot of harmful. Well, a lot of herbs actually have chemicals we get from herbs usually. We get a specific extract from the herbs, and so there are several herbs that they have a chemical that's at least similar to one that we're taking in a medication, and so when you're taking them both, it can compound the effect, and you can give an overdose in that specific chemical or type of chemical. Common thing is like sertraline, which is Zoloft, and St. John's wort. They are both antidepressants, and they both work in the same way in your body, and so it's basically like taking too much of either if you're taking both, and you can get some organ damage that way.
Have the doctors always recognized the over-the-counter herbal medications and the interaction with drugs?
No, they have not. It's only been in the past 5 years or so that doctors have really started taking notice, because things that are sold as an herbal supplement, they don't always need to be as restricted by the FDA because they are an herb and not necessarily a drug, because it's just a plant. They haven't done anything to it. But we have recently we have found major interactions, specifically with some herbal diet enhancements, drugs that have several different chemicals that interact with a wide variety of things, and where we really found out was because people were finally telling their doctors, and the doctors were finally asking, what herbal medications are you taking, and then they were compiling that data and found cross links on what was affecting what.
some of the supplements that I look on, on the label, it says, talk to the doctors before using this. What could be, like, if it's a multivitamin, like, what could be dangers with that?
Well, some multivitamins, there are certain vitamins, especially that are absorbed into the fat tissue. There's fat absorbed, and then there's water soluble. Water soluble you cannot overdose because it just goes through your system. But the ones that are absorbed into your fat, like vitamin D, gets absorbed into the fatty tissues of your body, and it stays there. And so, like for vitamin D, when someone gets it at a medication, they only get it like once a week because it's so potent it stays there for a long time. And there are several medications with vitamin D in there, or herbal medications that have vitamin D in them. And so if you're taking too much vitamin D, you can actually overdose. You have too much vitamin D, and you get tissue damage and nausea and several other effects. And so you want your doctor to know, what you're taking, so they can say, oh, well, you're taking too much. You're having way too many of this specific vitamin or mineral. Yeah.
So where would I go if I was the type to just, have multivitamins or herb supplements or something? Would I need to talk to my doctor every time I went, down to the health store and got something, or is there a place I could go to look this up?
Not necessarily. You can actually, like WebMD, which is a site I sourced, they actually have a lot of good information about different herbs and different foods that have interactions with certain medications. And if you're taking a medication or looking up an herb, you can type into a little search, and it'll pop up, and it'll have different information that you can go to about cautionary notes or what not to take with it, or the things that you would like to know. It doesn't replace, of course, your doctor, but if you see something that looks a little iffy, then you can go to to a pharmacist or a doctor and say, hey, I read this, is that true?